Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Indonesian Horror Files. I'm Daniel Malik Levi. How's everyone doing this week? So, before we get into tonight's story, I want to say thank you for all the messages you've been sending. A lot of you are Indonesian-Americans like me, or expats who grew up here and moved away, and you've been asking me to cover stories that feel close to home. Stories your grandparents warned you about, but you never really understood until you were older. Well, tonight's story, this one hit me hard. It came through my email about 3 weeks ago from a guy named Ryan. He's from Orange County, California, grew up there his whole life, but his mom is from Yogyakarta. He's Indonesian-American, second generation, and he told me this happened to him last summer during what was supposed to be a roots trip back to Java. You know, one of those trips where your parents guilt you into going back to see where they grew up, meet distant relatives, eat gudeg until you can't move. But Ryan's trip didn't go the way he expected, because Yogyakarta isn't just the cultural heart of Java. It's also the doorstep to something ancient, something that still watches the shoreline. And if you don't respect the rules that might seem ridiculous to someone who grew up in California, you might find yourself being claimed by the ocean itself. Tonight, we're talking about Nyi Roro Kidul, the Queen of the Southern Sea. And we're talking about the one rule you should never, under any circumstances, break. Stick around until the end, because as always, we're going to break down exactly what happened from a Javanese cultural perspective. We're going to talk about why the color green isn't just a preference, it's a mark of ownership. So turn down the lights, get comfortable, and let's dive into tonight's story. Ryan had just turned 27. He worked in tech, lived in a beige apartment in Irvine, and hadn't been back to Indonesia since he was 8 years old. His memories of Java were blurry, humid air, the smell of clove cigarettes, his grandmother's house with the ceramic tile floors that stayed cool even in the heat. But his mom had been persistent. You need to go back, Ryan. You need to see where you come from. Your grandmother. She's getting old, and you need to understand your roots. So he booked 2 weeks. Solo trip, mid-July. He figured he'd do the touristy stuff, Borobudur, Prambanan, maybe some hiking at Mount Marapi. He'd Instagram it, make his mom happy, and get back to his life in California. He landed in Yogyakarta on a Saturday afternoon. The heat was immediate, oppressive. The air felt alive, thick with moisture and the constant hum of motorbikes. His Airbnb was in a quiet neighborhood near the Kraton, the Sultan's Palace. The host, a friendly woman named Ibu Sari, gave him a list of recommendations and one very specific warning. You're planning to visit Parangtritis Beach, yes? She asked in accented English. Yeah, I saw it online. Looks beautiful. She nodded slowly. It is beautiful, but you must be respectful. Do not wear green, especially not green, and do not swim far. The waves there, they are not normal. Ryan smiled politely. Got it. No green. He didn't think much of it. 3 days later, Ryan rented a scooter and drove south toward the coast. The road wound through rice paddies and small villages where chickens scattered as he passed. The air smelled like burning trash and frangipani. The sun was brutal. When he finally reached Parangtritis, he understood why people called it dramatic. The beach wasn't the white sand, crystal water paradise you see in Bali postcards. This was raw. The sand was black volcanic grit. The waves were enormous, crashing against the shore with a violence that felt personal. The wind was constant, whipping sand into his face. There were a few local families scattered along the beach, and a handful of tourists taking photos near the dunes. Ryan pulled out his phone and started snapping pictures. The black sand, the wild ocean, the cliffs in the distance. Then he noticed it. A small bamboo structure near the waterline, decorated with flowers, incense, and offerings. Bananas, rice, a hand-rolled cigarette. It looked ceremonial, sacred. He walked closer. The offering was fresh. Someone had been here recently. Pretty cool, right? Ryan turned. A white guy in board shorts and a tank top was standing next to him, holding a GoPro. Yeah, Ryan said. What is it? Oh, it's some local superstition thing. They leave offerings for a sea goddess or something. Nyi Roro. Something. I don't know, man. The locals are super into it. Ryan nodded. He'd heard the name before. His grandmother had mentioned it once when he was a kid. Something about a queen who lived under the ocean. You going in? The guy asked, nodding toward the water. Ryan looked at the waves. They were massive. I don't know, man. Looks pretty rough. Nah, it's fine. Just stay close to shore. Ryan hesitated. Then he shrugged. When in Java, right? He walked back to his scooter, pulled out his backpack, and changed into his swim trunks. He had a rash guard in his bag, a bright emerald green one he'd bought in California for surfing. He didn't think twice. He pulled it on, left his stuff on the sand, and walked toward the water. The water was cold, way colder than he expected for a tropical beach. It felt dense, heavy, like it had weight. He waded in up to his waist, letting the waves crash against his chest. For a moment, everything felt fine. Refreshing even. Then he felt it. A pull, not a current. Something deliberate, like invisible hands wrapping around his ankles and tugging. He tried to step backward, but his feet slipped on the slick volcanic sand. Another wave hit, and this time it felt wrong. Like the ocean wasn't just water, but something sentient, something aware. He looked down. His green rash guard glowed bright against the dark water. And then, just for a second, he thought he saw something beneath the surface. A shape. A face? No. A silhouette. Long hair, flowing. Watching him. Panic kicked in. He scrambled backward, fighting the pull, and finally made it back to shore, gasping. His heart was pounding. The white guy with the GoPro jogged over. Dude, you okay? You look like you saw a ghost. Ryan didn't answer. He grabbed his stuff and left. That night, back at the Airbnb, Ryan couldn't shake the feeling. His skin felt cold, even though the room was humid and warm. He took a hot shower, but the water didn't help. He felt damp, like he'd never fully dried off. He tried to sleep, but the dreams were immediate and overwhelming. He was underwater, deep, deep, underwater. The pressure was crushing his chest. He couldn't breathe. He was sinking, and above him, through the murky green water, he could see light, distant, unreachable. And then he saw her, a woman, impossibly beautiful, with long black hair that moved like kelp in the current. She was wearing green. Sea green. Her eyes locked onto his, and she smiled. She reached out her hand, and he woke up gasping, drenched in sweat. The next day, Ryan felt off. Exhausted. His body was heavy, his limbs sluggish. He chalked it up to jet lag, dehydration, too much sun. But then he started noticing the smell. It followed him everywhere. Salt, brine, seaweed. The smell of the ocean, but wrong, like something rotting beneath the surface. Clung to his clothes, his hair, his skin. He showered 3 times. It didn't help. That afternoon, he went to visit his grandmother's house in the countryside outside Yogyakarta. She was tiny, frail, sitting on the porch in a faded batik sarong. She smiled when she saw him, but the smile faded the moment he stepped closer. Her face went pale. "Kamu kena apa?" she whispered. "What happened to you?" "I'm fine, Omba. Just tired." She grabbed his wrist. Her grip was surprisingly strong. "Kamu ke lautan?" "Did you go to the Southern Sea?" Ryan blinked. "Yeah, Parangtritis. 2 days ago." Her expression darkened. She pulled him inside, muttering under her breath in rapid Javanese. She made him sit. She pulled out a bundle of dried leaves, lit them, and waved the smoke around his head, whispering prayers. "Amba, what's going on?" She looked him dead in the eyes. "You smell like her. Like Nyi Roro Kidul." "What did you do?" "I just went swimming." What were you wearing?" Ryan hesitated. Rash guard. Green." His grandmother's face went white. She sat down heavily, shaking her head. Bodo. Foolish. She saw you. She thinks you are hers now. That night, the dreams got worse. He was back underwater. But this time, he wasn't drowning. He was walking. The ocean floor was smooth, covered in white sand. In the distance, he could see a palace. Massive, glowing, made of coral and pearl. Music drifted through the water. The sound of gamelan. Slow and hypnotic. The woman was there again. She was sitting on a throne, draped in flowing green silk. Her beauty was terrifying. Too perfect, too sharp. Kamu sudah datang, she said softly. You have come. I don't understand. You wore my color. You entered my domain. You are mine now. I didn't know. Oh, she smiled. Then you will learn. She stood, and as she approached, he realized she wasn't walking. She was gliding, her body moving like water itself. She reached out and touched his chest. Her fingers were ice cold, and then he felt it. A pull, deep inside, like something was being tugged out of him, something essential. He tried to scream, but no sound came out. Ryan woke up in the middle of the night. His body was soaked, not with sweat, but with seawater. His sheets, his pillow, everything was drenched, and the smell of the ocean was overpowering. He sat up, gasping, and that's when he saw it. On the floor, leading from the door to his bed, were wet footprints. Small, barefoot, feminine. They stopped right next to where he'd been sleeping. Panic set in. He grabbed his phone, his wallet, and his passport. He didn't pack. He just left. He drove straight to his grandmother's house, pounding on the door at 3 a.m. She opened it immediately, as if she'd been expecting him. She didn't say anything. She just pulled him inside and got to work. She burned incense. She tied a white string around his wrist, whispering prayers in old Javanese. She made him drink a bitter herbal tea that tasted like dirt and flowers. She pressed a thumb to his forehead, chanting, Ojo Bali Menyang Segara, she whispered. Do not return to the sea. What did I do, Mba? She looked at him with sad, knowing eyes. You wore her color. Green is sacred to Nyi Roro Kidul. When you enter the southern sea wearing green, you are marking yourself as hers. You are saying, I am your servant. I belong to you, but I didn't know. She does not care. You entered her domain. You broke the boundary. And now she believes you are hers to keep. What do I do? She handed him a small woven bracelet, red and white thread, braided together. Wear this. Do not take it off. And do not go near the ocean again. Not for a long time. Maybe not ever. Ryan left Java 2 days later. He didn't finish his trip. He didn't visit Borobudur. He just went home. The bracelet stayed on his wrist. The dreams stopped. But to this day, he can't go near the ocean. Even in California. Even at Laguna Beach. Because every time he gets close to the water, he smells it. Salt. Seaweed. Brine. And he hears her voice. Faint but unmistakable. Calling from beneath the waves. Kamu milikku. Tadi. You are mine. Alright, so what the hell just happened to Ryan? Let's break this down. Because from a Javanese cultural perspective, this isn't just a ghost story. This is a boundary violation. And Ryan, without knowing it, crossed one of the most sacred, most dangerous boundaries in Javanese cosmology. First, let's talk about who we're dealing with. Nyi Roro Kidul, also called Nyi Roro Kidul, or Kanjeng Ratu Kidul, is not a ghost. She's not a demon. She is a sovereign, a queen. In Javanese belief, she rules the Samudra Kidul, the Southern Ocean, the Indian Ocean that borders the entire southern coast of Java. Her origin story varies depending on which version you hear, but the most common one goes like this. She was once a human princess named Dewi Kadita, the daughter of a king in the Sunda Kingdom, in what is now West Java. She was beautiful, beloved, but her stepmother was jealous. The stepmother cursed her with a terrible skin disease, and Kadita was cast out of the palace in disgrace. In despair, she threw herself into the southern sea, intending to die. But the ocean didn't take her life. It transformed her. The spirits of the sea healed her, made her more beautiful than she had ever been, and crowned her queen of the underwater realm. But here's the thing, she didn't become a benevolent protector. She became something else, something powerful, something that demands respect. In Javanese cosmology, she's not evil, but she's not safe either. She's a force of nature, and like all forces of nature, if you disrespect her, she will respond. Now let's talk about the rule Ryan broke, the one his Airbnb host warned him about, the one his grandmother freaked out about. Do not wear green near the southern sea. In Javanese, the specific color associated with Nyi Roro Kidul is called Gadhang Lathi, a particular shade of sea green, bluish green, the color of shallow tropical water lit by sunlight. It is her color. It is the color of her court, her palace, her servants serve. When you wear green, especially that shade of green, and you enter the Southern Ocean, you are, in essence, putting on a uniform. You are signaling to her, I am yours. I belong to your court. I am your servant. You're not just being disrespectful. You're volunteering. And once she sees you, once she marks you, she believes you are hers to claim. This isn't superstition. This is codified tradition. Go to Parangtritis Beach today, right now, and you'll see signs. You'll see warnings. Locals will stop you if they see you wearing green, because they know. Let's zoom out for a second. To understand why this belief is so strong, you have to understand Kejawen, Javanese mysticism. It's a blend of animism, Hindu-Buddhist cosmology, Sufi Islam, and ancestral reverence. It's the spiritual backbone of Java, even today. In Kejawen, the world is not divided into natural and supernatural. Everything is interconnected. Spirits, ancestors, elemental forces, they exist alongside us, in parallel. And certain places are thin. Places where the boundary between the worlds is weak. The Southern Sea is one of those places. And here's the kicker, the sultans of Yogyakarta and Surakarta, the royal families who still hold cultural and spiritual authority in central Java, are believed to have a pact with Nyi Roro Kidul. It's said that she is the spiritual consort of the Sultan of Mataram, and that the kraton, the palace, holds a room for her, furnished entirely in green, where offerings are left annually. There's even a ritual called Labuhan, held every year, where offerings are carried to the ocean. Flowers, food, traditional clothing, and given to Nyi Roro Kidul to ensure the safety and prosperity of the kingdom. This isn't folklore. This is living tradition. This is happening now. So what happened to Ryan, specifically? When he entered the water wearing green, he committed what we call in Javanese a pelanggaran adat, a violation of customary law, of sacred protocol. From Nyi Roro Kidul's perspective, Ryan wasn't a random tourist. He was someone offering himself. He entered her domain, wearing her colors, in a place where the veil is thin. And she responded. The pull he felt in the water, that wasn't a rip current. That was intention. In Javanese belief, water spirits can manipulate water physically. They can create currents, cold spots, undertows that don't behave like normal oceanography. The dreams, those weren't nightmares. They were visitations. She was bringing his spirit to her palace, showing him where he would belong if he stayed claimed. The wet footprints in his room, she was checking on her claim, visiting him in the physical world. The smell, that's a classic sign. When a water spirit marks you, you carry the scent of their domain. It's how other spirits and sensitive humans know you've been touched by something from the other side. Ryan's grandmother knew exactly what to do. The ritual she performed is called ruatan, a cleansing, a spiritual reset. The incense, kemenyan, the prayers, the herbal tea, all of it was designed to sever the claim. The bracelet she gave him? That's called gilang benang, a protection cord. Red and white are the colors of balance, of human life. They mark him as belonging to the human realm, not the spirit realm. But here's the thing, the ritual worked. But Ryan is marked. Not claimed, but marked. That's why he can't go near the ocean anymore. That's why he still smells it sometimes. In Javanese belief, once you've been seen by a powerful spirit, you don't just forget it. It leaves a residue. You carry that encounter with you. And if you're not careful, if you let your guard down, the claim can reassert itself. So here's what you need to know if you ever visit the southern coast of Java. Parangtritis, Parangkusumo, Glaga, any of those beaches. Do not wear green. Especially not sea green, turquoise, or emerald. Just don't. Wear black. Wear red. Wear literally anything else. Respect the offerings. If you see a bamboo structure with flowers and food, do not touch it. Do not step over it. Do not take photos mocking it. That is a negotiation between humans and the spirit world. You do not interfere. Do not swim far. The Southern Sea has some of the most dangerous riptides in the world. But beyond the physical danger, locals will tell you. The ocean takes people. People disappear. And it's not always the current. If you're Indonesian-American, or half Indonesian, or even just visiting, ask your elders. There are rules. There are protocols. And they exist for a reason. Because Nyi Roro Kidul isn't a campfire story. She's not a TikTok ghost. She is a living belief, woven into the fabric of Javanese life. And whether you believe in her or not, the ocean doesn't care. It will take you just the same. All right, everyone. That's tonight's story. I want to give a huge thank you to Ryan for trusting me with this. I know it wasn't easy to share. If you have a story, something that happened to you, or someone in your family, something you can't explain, but you know is real, send it my way. I read everything. Next week, we're going deeper into Java. We're talking about the pocong, the shrouded ghost, and why you should never, ever untie a knot you find in the forest. Until then, stay safe, respect the old ways, and remember, just because you grew up in California doesn't mean the spirits forgot where you came from. I'm Daniel Malik Levi, and this is Indonesian Horror Files.